Hey folks, thanks for coming over to Capitalism for Good. This is a part of a larger project where I am on a mission to interview 100 business leaders about the positive impact that they have on their internal and external communities. It is through these interviews that we will dig into how we can use the ways in which we make and spend our dollars in order to benefit the greater good. Okay, wow. Words are difficult. I have been really thinking and contemplating this one for a little bit and trying to figure out what it might look like. How do I summarize? How do I find themes? How do I do all of this for way too long? Because we are officially 1/4 of the way through with this project, which is just, it is wild to me. Every time that I think I have it all kind of figured out and something seems predictable, as life goes, it gets all turned around and someone comes in with a completely opposite idea that just like throws everything that I was thinking kind of off course. And it has been so interesting. You've heard from all of these different people in all of these different fields, including ones that I never would have guessed at the beginning of this. And we've had some really like enlightening conversations that have ended up stretching well beyond what I could have ever imagined when I started this project. It was really kind of just an exploration of me trying to find proof and examples of people that are doing it the right way in the business world, because it was a little jaded, a little burnt out, like a lot of, I would say, millennials or kind of folks all over the place. After talking to Hannah Withers, she kind of attributes a lot of it to post-pandemic resets and the way people kind of rethink things. I think that is just a little bit of all of the above for me. And so I was going to go out and have these 100 interviews, probably a million times more than that already, because that's just what I do. That's in the nature of who I am as a person. I'm going to find interesting people everywhere, and I'm going to ask them as many questions as they'll allow me to ask of them and try to like learn and analyze and pull things that I can apply to my own life. That's something that I was going to do anyway. And so, I thought, why not just allow people, if there's anyone else out there who is interested in also hearing about those same things, that needs kind of some heartwarming reassurance, that needs some maybe alternatives as far as services, products, things out there, ways that they can spend their money, ways that they can maybe make some changes within their own job and their own company, just like all of the above. Just like someone who's looking for something a little bit different than what the status quo was, because the status quo that I was experiencing, I didn't love. And so I was kind of picturing this how-to guide formed from the stories of how each of these leaders built and maintained the foundation of their businesses that were being leveraged for good in their communities. And as anyone who's followed this project from start to where we are now, it has morphed into so much deeper than that. And I am just so thankful, and my brain is kind of spinning, and I am trying to figure out where we're gonna go with the next 3/4 of the project, and who all we're gonna talk to, and kind of identified a couple gaps and places where I want to go with it. But I also want to hear what everyone else has to say about it. What are your thoughts? Who are the people that you want to see? What industries do you want them to be in? Are you yourself looking for another job and you want to know what other companies are out there? Are you looking to kind of change things within the company that you're working for? Are you looking for swaps in your own life, whether it's what are the things that I can change, and how do I make this easier, and what books should I read? Any of those kinds of things, send those my way. Um, it's been, it, you know, it, I just, again, I was already looking to find these leaders that I looked up to and then pepper them with questions and learn how to follow in their footsteps. And I was going to ask them all of these questions anyway. It's kind of one of the things that I'm probably best at, much to the chagrin and annoyance sometimes to the people around me who are probably like, dear Lord, is there not an end to all of these questions? And so, if you are someone who maybe doesn't have the time or the energy or the capacity to pepper people with questions and you want me to do it for you, send it my way. I'm happy to do it. That's what I'm good at, and I'm here to do it anyway and just share what I learn with anyone who might be interested along the way. And of course, as we've gone through this first quarter, I keep trying to find all of these through lines, and then I'll find something that doesn't fit with that through line, which is honestly really great from my end because it means that there's a lot more to this whole thing than I thought, and that is just deeply interesting to me. I'll get on a roll with something like female founders, thinking that they're the ones out here solving problems with their businesses. You heard me talk to Lindsay McCoy about it, and really like every female owner out there. And then we'll feature a man that's doing the same thing, and I'm like, well, there goes that theory. That's not fully what it is. And, I think there's a lot to say for both of those things can be true, that there are a lot of really great women that are out there that are using businesses to solve problems, but it's not necessarily only them. So it's been really exciting to find kind of the exceptions to the rules, and like, okay, that's a really great point. There are a lot of women out there, but let's also look at the men and the things that they're doing. So that's been really cool. Another one is I'll think that like leading the charge with thoughts about the dollar isn't the right way. If you've listened to any of my early Between the Interviews episodes, it's really where my brain was at, is that like you cannot lead with the dollars, because if you do, then that gets convoluted and you're not putting people first, or you're not putting your values first. And then we talk to people like Peter Kroll, and that's all he's doing is leveraging money investments for good. And then I'll come up with this other theory that's like this punk rock idea of low tech, no website, this anti-AI movement and efforts and those kinds of things. And then I meet people like Julia and Travis, who are examples of folks using AI for a positive impact, and that's all thrown in the gutter. That's not the right way to look at it either way. So maybe it's just time for me to double down on my thought that we don't necessarily have to be the smartest person in the room, or the richest person in the room, or the most technologically advanced person in the room, the loudest voice in the room, the most experienced person in the room. We can all make a positive impact on our communities if we just focus on our intentions on making a positive impact and make a lot of small decisions that build upon one another for a greater impact. That's my theory right now. We'll see how quickly that gets derailed. Or is this just like it's all gray, it's all the same, that kind of thing? I don't know. But it's been really difficult and harder than I expected to put it all in any little package, and that is just kind of the way life is in general, so that maybe shouldn't surprise me so much. Also, just like life in general, being a human, we all evolve over time. So does this Capitalism for Good project. So along the way, you've asked, I listened, hunted down some sustainable beauty and fashion industry leaders, some folks to talk about the ethics and philosophy surrounding AI and tech usage, some just straight sustainable finance discussions. And now looking forward in the remaining 75 conversations, I'm looking for everyday managers that are just phenomenal at pushing the envelope, taking care of their employees across all industries. Specifically, I think we've got got some gaps in arts, in education, in healthcare, in service kind of industries. So if you have a fantastic boss, or if you know of a really great company that you think deserves a shout out, please send those my way. Would love to shine a spotlight on the folks that are already in your community that are doing things the right way, and we might as well give them a little platform. If we already know them, let's tell more people about them. Let's celebrate them. And also send me what specific fields or job titles that you want me to explore. Again, let me do the research for you. If you've been following in chronological order, you might notice that there have been some tweaks along the way. For example, I've condensed some of the CFG websites so that there are more things all in one place, accessible through patreon.com/capitalism for good. I'm starting to get the hang of Instagram, so you've got things to see and interact with there, some little clips, some previews, some highlights of the conversations that we're having that are there. I also started a TikTok, but I'll warn you that I don't really know what I'm doing over there, so that's really a work in progress, but it exists. Everything starts at step one. It all starts at the beginning somehow. It exists, and that is step one. I've also created 2 spin-off sister projects. Well, create's probably not the right word for the first quarter of this. I've launched 2 spin-off sister projects. The building blocks for both of those have been in the works in my brain for a very, very long time. Bittersweet Paradox, I would say probably 15, 20 years has been in the works. So that's a really exciting one now that it's starting to kind of come together into what it looks like now, and that one will absolutely continue to evolve and change and look a little bit different in the future. But Bittersweet Paradox is the more kind of personal, introverted side of the house that involves some introspection about how we're all just humans behind this, behind every company, behind every consumer, behind everything that we do and interact with. The ones spending the money and making the money are humans. We all have our own shit, and it's these times in the shit when it just like really threatens to derail everything that we do and all that we've worked for and everything that we've built so far. I'm kind of really talking and getting at these rough, dark times that try to consume everything around us and are just the most difficult. I'm a true firm believer in the idea that we all have our most difficult times, and these most difficult times should never be compared to one another. They're personal and they're subjective, and it's all the darkest times in our own lives in relation to all of the other things that we've experienced. So it's never fair to compare one person's rough time to another one, in the same way that comparing other people's successes and goals and highest moments is not something that we should be doing. We shouldn't be comparing our lives to other people's anyway, because we're all on our same journey, and it nothing happens in a vacuum. Just because there's a most difficult time in your life that you're experiencing in the moment doesn't mean that it's happening in a vacuum. There's also some light, there's also levity, there's also learning that's happening at the same time. Life keeps going. All of these things can be happening at once, and all of these things can be true at one time. It is the bittersweet paradox of life. So there's a podcast component where we'll talk to some folks about their dark times in life and how the light exists simultaneously. Some episodes will come out when they come out. There's no schedule, because life doesn't happen on a schedule. I don't want to put any pressure on that. That is the exact opposite of what I'm doing. I want it to just unfold as it unfolds. So as things are ready to be posted, they will get posted. So subscribe if you're interested and you want to know when a new episode drops. There's one that's out right now. We've got a few more that are in production and in kind of various different stages. And again, they'll come out when they come out, because out of the grand scheme of life, a self-imposed deadline is not one that we need to stress over. But if you are interested in telling your own story, hit me up. Happy to hear it, happy to talk to you about it, and maybe it will be something that we'll kind of mutually decide is something that should be shared widely. Also within Bittersweet Paradox is a weekly writing club where I post my actual real life journal entries along with current day reflection and a writing prompt for you to think or write about, or do whatever you want to do. If you want to do nothing with it, do nothing with it. Again, there are no rules to this. There's no pressure. It is loosey-goosey. There are enough rules and structure and pressure in other parts of your life. This is not a place for that. This is a place for us to just like get our thinkers thinking again and think about different things and consider and process the world around us. So if that is something that is helpful to you, do it. If it's something that is not helpful to you, don't do it. It is totally up to you. You can make it what you want it to be. For me as a human, it was a really great way to balance the Capitalism for Good project, where I get to process just like all of the things and like learning so much in that project process, especially in Easter egg, the next part that I'm going to tell you about. And then, life keeps going. There's shit that's happening like outside of all of that sometimes just needs some attention. And there were things and pieces in my own life and my own skill set that I wanted to practice and kind of get comfortable with, and all of those kinds of things. So I practiced being vulnerable. I practiced showing the unpolished and unbuttoned up sides of myself in my own life, because really at the end of the day, there's no capitalism for good without the humans behind those things, and those humans go through some stuff, myself included. And if I'm going to ask anyone else to talk to me about anything that's personal, anything that is meaningful to them, including the businesses that they've built or the businesses that they've helped shape, those decisions, like all of those kinds of things can be personal. If I'm going to ask people to talk about those kinds of things, then I think that it's only right that I share sides of myself as well. So that's what I'm doing there. And if you want to participate and go along, whether or not you post something for the greater world to see, you don't have to do that. You can just be a looky-loo if you want. Again, it is what you make of it. Okay, I alluded to this next one. This one is very, very fun to me. This is the next phase of the Capitalism for Good project. I am calling it Capitalism for Green. And I'll go into it obviously in more detail in Capitalism for Green, but I've had this long-standing big business dream that merges with what I want my own life to look like, specifically when I'm like old and wrinkly and fully gray. Like, I'm talking about the North Star that I have been moving toward for my entire life. And I also obviously have some really strong opinions and some really firm non-negotiables that are related to what goes into the foundation of everything that I do. So Capitalism for Green is me using all of those lessons that I'm learning through Capitalism for Good to build my own dream business that gives back to the community in a way that feels right to me from top to bottom every step of the way. And in the spirit of Capitalism for Good, I'm documenting it along the way from the very beginning for anyone who's interested in seeing that and following along from the actual step one. So there's a weekly blog where I outline the big picture full idea, and then we'll move into pulling into other folks that'll help me kind of build along the way. And when I say step one, I mean step one. I mean plans, ideas, budgets, pitches, background, the research, the step one. One of the things that I love talking to people about in Capitalism for Good is folks' early days, their first steps, how they got their start, how those things happened. And what we see as consumers is often what happens at the launch phase. And what I'm interested in is, how do you get to the launch phase? How do you get to that behind the scenes? So when I say step one, I mean step one. I mean, I have an idea. I've noticed a gap in the market. I have an idea of where I want to go in the future, and I'm figuring out what that pathway looks like. And I have kind of a general idea, and every day it kind of morphs a little bit on good days it gets more detailed and the plan gets a little more clear and we take some steps moving forward. And some days I question all of that, and then you hear about it in Bittersweet Paradox. But, I just wanted to show what it's like in the earliest of early days, and, and just be open and transparent about that. Again, in the same vein as Bittersweet Paradox and in the same vein as Capitalism for Good. So if you want to see Capitalism for Good come to life, consider checking out the Capitalism for Green project. There is a Patreon page set up for both Bittersweet Paradox and Capitalism for Green, just as there is for Capitalism for Good. That's kind of our main hub landing page for all of it. When I talked about condensing things, that is where I've put kind of the offshoots of everything. Your main place to go, the place where you get company mentions, all of those kinds of things are all from that Patreon page, and it is set up in a way to where you can customize to get what you want out of them. So do you want to read a weekly blog? Great. Do you want to watch early release videos? Great. Are you into podcasts? Great. Do you want to keep things free and just pay to support the project via Patreon subscription so it's free for other people? Great. Do you want to get your thinker thinking again and actually do and participate in some writing in kind of a group way? Great. We've got that. Do you want to follow along on social media only? Great. We've got links to that there. Are you only interested in the things that are free? Great. Available through that. Also available through all major podcast platforms. There are certain blog posts that'll be up for free. It really depends on what you do. Do you want something different that I'm not already offering? Let me know. Are you interested in paying to support one of the projects to keep it going and available without traditional ads and sponsorships? Great. Also, thank you. This project would not exist. None of these projects would exist without folks that support through Patreon subscriptions. And then, do you really believe in one of the projects and you want to pay the creators directly? Great. Again, Patreon is a really great place for that. So if you have thoughts, recommendations, suggestions, requests, also great. Please send those to me. I want to know what you think and want to tailor them towards what is going through other people's heads. What did you think of the first 25 of them if you've listened to all of those? And where are the gaps that you see? What are the questions that I'm not asking? What are the things that you really want to know so that you can take that moving forward, both from the consumer side and from the employee or the business leader side? And let's just, together go leave this place better than we found it.